Man, I got to tell you what, growing up, watching bowling as a teenager, one of the guys that was always on the TV shows was Walter Ray Williams. And I'm very fortunate now that I can call him my friend, as well as still being a fan of his. And we have a treat for you today. So welcome, Pitt Nation, Storm Nation, and every other nation. We have the fortune of being able to interview the all-time great in the sport of bowling, Walter Ray Williams. So let's get him on here. Hey, Walter Ray, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Wait, what is that in the background? Do you have a bird?
That's my puppy want me to play with her. She got a little chew toy.
Let's go. Get the puppy up here. Let's show the puppy.
She's a cutie. She's a Welsh corgi. She is really cute.
Bring her up into the screen.
Come here. Come on, girl.
Let's unveil her to the group.
Come on. She's not camera shy.
There she is.
There she is. There's a cutie.
What's her name?
Her name is Air, which is the Norse goddess of healing and mercy. She's a therapy animal for my wife. But since I'm the one that picked her up at the airport, or picked her up in California and brought her out to Florida, and I tend to take her out to go walks and stuff, she kind of likes me a little bit more. But she's a therapy dog for Fancy.
So would it be Air Fancy or Air Walter Ray compared with Air Jordan?
Well, it's Air is like I said, it's the Norse goddess of healing and mercy, and so basically I describe her as Thor's little sister. But maybe
Thor's little sister,
but maybe slightly more destructive, because she chews up the toy animals and stuff like crazy.
Well, that chew toy needs to be thrown outside at the bottom of your pool, at least for the next 50 minutes.
Well, she likes the squeakers. There's no doubt about that. So I'll put this up here. So.
Okay, perfect. So what's going on? How you been? Talk a little bit about what's been going on these last couple months.
Not much. I have not thrown a bowling ball since Las Vegas, and that was over 2 months ago.
Have you been pitching horseshoes at all?
I have been pitching horseshoes. Was that a dog?
No, that was Josh deciding he's going to move something. He likes sitting on tables because he's like,
okay.
He's 6'7", so a chair.
I was going to say, I saw a picture with you looking up at somebody. I was going to say, was that Josh? And he's like,
that's Josh. He's in a different.
He's in a different stratosphere. Yeah, that's. I'm tall, but that's way tall. Yeah, there's a guy that bowls on the senior tour a little bit. Robert Brown. He's from Wyoming. He's 6'7.5", and he likes to call me Shorty.
Yeah, well, Josh, what are you, 6'7"?
Yeah.
Josh says that he is 5'19". That's what he says.
Yeah, I used to tell people I was 5'14", but yeah. But I've got a horseshoe court in my backyard, and I thought, well, this would be a perfect time to try to get my game back into shape. Unfortunately, it's not working out very well. I'm not sure exactly why. I have a really weird thing. My right finger here is slightly swollen compared to my left. I mean, it hurts a little bit. Now I've got arthritis in all my fingertips, so I'm kind of used to that. There's always a little bit of pain going on, but this is like I was pitching and it's like hurting a little bit, and you kind of flinch a little bit, which doesn't help any. And I'm like, man, it's just what's going on. So I actually started pitching left-handed again, which I actually pitched competitively back in the middle of the 2000s, and I actually got pretty good left-handed because when I was young, I broke my finger, broke my wrist. I learned how to play left-handed, and I'll start playing left-handed. So I've actually been playing left-handed now, and I'm probably right now about equal left or right-handed, which is kind of funny. And I joined some online horseshoe pitching groups, and they have events. In fact, I have an event today. Unfortunately, it's a little windy outside, so I'm going to wait till about 8:30 or so tonight, and hopefully the wind will die down. But it's kind of fun. And the other night I actually played myself left and right-handed, which was kind of interesting.
in horseshoes.
Yes, I played,
Yep.
like I was playing like two different people, and it was kind of interesting. Yeah.
I have a good story about you pitching horseshoes. Back in 2004, I was down visiting Walter Ray, and Walter Ray started pitching horseshoes. He had a little practice session, and I was on a blow up raft in his pool, just kind of waiting. And all I hear is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the pool was right next to my horseshoe court. Yeah.
Right next to the horseshoe court.
Everybody thought the horseshoe court was inside because it was in a screen room, or the Florida room, or lanai, whatever you want to call it. And it was a pretty good sized one. I had a pretty nice house back then. Don't have that anymore. That's okay. And it was right next to the pool. And every once in a while, I would actually throw a horseshoe, hit the stake, and it would bounce off and go into the pool, which was always fun trying to get it out.
Well, that's part of that's part of the story. So I'm laying in the pool, just chilling out in the pool, and I hear clink, clink, clink. And then every once in a while I'd hear a clank. And Walter Ray, he'd be like, son of a bitch. Oh, damn it. I'm going, what the heck's the problem? So he says, well, I'm only throwing about 70% right-handed, so I think I'm going to start throwing left-handed. And I'm thinking, 70% what? What does that mean? That's 70% ringers. So he was running about 70% ringers at the time, maybe a little less, a little bit more. But so I said, well, I mean, Walter Ray, he makes it look so easy. So I got out of the pool. I said, here, teach me how to throw those. I'm telling you what, I threw probably 100 horseshoes, and I got one ringer, and one went right in this pool. Swear to God, we had to go down diving at the bottom of the pool. It was like throwing quarters at the bottom of the pool, except you got a nice little horseshoe down at the bottom of the pool. Because literally, it was about 5 or 6 feet away from his pool was the horseshoe court that he had. And this guy right here, he puts on the headband. He's got the headband, and then he gets out this file to where he starts filing off all of the horseshoes. And then he's got these special sneakers that he has that has clay all over. Then he looks like the movie Ghost, like he's doing pottery, and he pours a little water on the pit and turns over all the clay. This guy right here, who I got on right now, I watched him pitch left-handed and right-handed, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, back then I was about 70%, and like I said, at that time I had been struggling right-handed, so I'm like, okay, this is. At one time I thought, pitching 80% was bad, 10 years earlier. So 70% was really bad, and I wasn't having any fun. And I'm like, well, if I start playing left-handed, maybe I could get decent at it. And I actually did. I actually put my best 2 years in the last 20 years at the World Tournament was playing left-handed, which is kind of ridiculous. That's how bad I got playing right-handed. But it was kind of amazing because I did finish second 2 years in a row playing left-handed at the World Tournament. And people are, that don't play horseshoes don't understand how good the good players are. It's like anything. If you don't see really good players, you don't know how good they are. And at one time, I was about 85 to 90% ringers. And a bad day for me was 80% ringers. And now a good day for me is 70%. And right now I'm probably about 60%. So it's a bit on the frustrating side. And people say, well, you're older. And I'm like, age really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. I've been going over some old videos and stuff. And I found a video from 1983. I was playing against, when I first was on tour, I'd come down to Florida. And there was a guy who was from Rochester. And he ended up moving down to Florida, Carl Steinfeld. He was also a really good bowler. But he was a world champion. He only won the world championship one time, but he finished second to me one year, and I was 25 and he was 67. He averaged 83% ringers. So age isn't really as big a deal as it is in other sports, but I've got some other things. It was kind of that part of it. That was part of it, and just developed some bad habits and trying to get rid of those. And that's why going left-handed actually almost made sense, because it was like going totally away from what I was doing to try to just figure out how to play the game. Because I like to play horseshoes. I think it's a great game. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of people that play it, not a lot of money in it, but I think it's a great game.
Well, let me ask you, at one time there, and correct me if I'm wrong, the story, because I don't know it exactly, But at one time, of all the world champions that there was only a handful of times to where somebody averaged over 90% ringers at the world championship, and you had all but one of those. Is that a true story?
Nope. I never averaged 90% at the world tournament. I averaged 90% at other tournaments, but I never did it at the world tournament. And the guy who's the current world champion, who I'm going to interview him tomorrow evening, Alan Francis, he is the only one who's actually averaged 90% at the world tournament. And he is really, really good. And when I was at the top of my game, I was almost as good as he is. But the thing is he's been steady. I mean, he's won the world tournament now 22 out of the last 25 years and finished second the other 3 times. That just imagine that. 25 different years in a row, he's won it. And the other 3 years he finished second. Whoa, what happened to my video there?
So who beat him those years?
There was a gentleman, Brian Simmons, who I played against as a junior and was a good junior player, but when he went in the men's division, he actually got really good. And he managed to beat Alan several times, for the world championship. And but Brian, unfortunately, had a lot of health problems, and he only played in the world tournament like half the time. But for the most part, Alan just kind of walks away with it. I mean, he 1 year, about, 5 years ago, I think I finished 5th, and I averaged like 68%, which for me now is decent, but I was still kind of disappointed in that finish. But I had one of my best games of the tournament against him. I shot 78%. He beat me 40-4. And then and then the next game he played Brian Simmons, who ended up finishing second, and beat him 40-7. And last year at the World Tournament, he had, I think, the best single day anybody's ever had at the World Tournament, and it was on the last day. And in the Horseshoe Tournament, what they do is they play a round robin where the top players play each other the last few games. So he's playing basically the next top 5 guys, and I think he averaged like 92% against those guys and wiped them out. I mean, it's kind of crazy how good he really is. It's amazing.
Are there any videos of him that we can go look on YouTube or anything?
There should be. In fact, I'm going to try to look, because I actually made one, because in 2009 is the first year I didn't play in the World Tournament since I started playing back in 1970. And part of it was because there was a tour event, and I wasn't playing very well. And it was like, well, okay, I can definitely make more money bowling than I can playing horseshoes. And I wasn't competitive, and I thought, well, maybe I should go to the bowling tournament. So I went to the bowling tournament, led the qualifier, and then they had the stepladder finals later on. That was when they had the first World Series. I was up in Taylor, Michigan, and I ended up winning that tournament. So it was a good thing I went to that bowling tournament. But I went to the horseshoe tournament the last day of competition, and I had my video camera with me, and I taped the last game between Alan and Brian, and it was probably the best game that has ever been pitched. And Alan made an unbelievable comeback. The game goes to 40 points, and he had Brian had 37 points, and Alan had 21, and Alan came back and beat him.
Wow.
It was really kind of amazing. The game went well over an hour, and Brian had 89-point-something% ringers, and Alan had 90% ringers. And it was one of the best games ever played in competition. I happened to get all of it on tape. And it's been on the internet before, but I was kind of trying to look for it the other day, and I know I've got it in some of my old archives and stuff on all my computer stuff, and I'm going to have to dig it up and push it back on there again.
You have to. You absolutely have to, especially if you have him on tomorrow. You can reference part of it with him. It's amazing that the greats in any sport, those of us that are just fans, as an example, you and I mean, I've been a fan of yours since I've been a young teenager. And I remember we had gotten done playing golf one of those days that I was down there visiting you, staying at Walter Ray's house. I mean, it's pretty cool. At that time, he was living on a golf course, and so he could go out and we'd go out and play.
I used to play all the time. I don't play as much anymore. I need to go out and play a little bit. Of course, we got some restrictions and stuff around here, but I might have a match that I need to kind of get ready for.
Against me?
No. What is it? The GOAT match they're going to have with Pete Weber and Norm Duke and myself. The guy who's hosting that also wants to do a golf match, and he's actually putting up money for the golf match too. So
that's pretty cool. That's pretty really cool. I got to tell you, I had the pleasure of playing. I got two parts of the story. I'm playing golf against Walter Ray, and I don't know. I mean, we had a little small wager, every hole, maybe $5 a hole. I've never dropped so many F-bombs in my entire life because I couldn't hit that ball. And I was so frustrated because I wanted to beat Walter Ray. Crap. So then we end up getting back to Walter Ray's house. I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm eating a sandwich, and I look over at Walter Ray like he's sitting to my left, and I'm looking at him, and I just find myself staring at Walter Ray. He turns, looks at me, and he goes, "What?" And I'm like, listen, yeah, we're friends and we're acquaintances, and I'm at your house, and we get along, and we're playing golf, but I'm sitting on effing Walter Ray Williams' couch. Like, I just got done playing golf, and now I'm having a sandwich on Walter Ray Williams' couch. As a bowling fan, it was like completely blew my mind. And to be able to know personally some of the greats that have ever been, we had Norm Duke on a couple weeks ago. I had Tom Baker on. Having you on a show, the fact that you'll even pick up when I place a phone call, it kind of blows my mind as a bowling fan. But it's so neat to be able to call you a friend at the same time. So
thank you.
These guys are waving at me here. We need to talk about the PBA League. But before we do that, I want you to tell the story about you coming up here to Lockport to pitch horseshoes.
Well, there was in Lockport, they used to have they used to have the biggest ladies horseshoe league in organization. And there was a couple of ladies. One was in Gentsville, and the other one was in Lockport, that were world champions. And at the world tournaments, when I was a junior boy, I used to practice with the one lady, Lorraine Thomas. She lived in Lockport. And so when I first was on tour and they had the tournament in Buffalo area, I would stay at their house, and practice with her. And actually ended up meeting one of the young ladies in Lockport. I actually dated her for a little while. But that was when I was very first on tour.
So those courts that you're referring to, they were at Outwater Park. Is that correct?
I couldn't tell you the name of the park, but I practiced there a couple of times. Yeah, but mainly when I was there to pitch horseshoes, I would be in their backyard because that's she practiced in her backyard. She ended up having her husband built a court for them, and she was a very good player. At that time, she wasn't as good as she used to be in the 70s and late 60s because she was world champion in 68 and 74, but she was still pretty decent. And unfortunately, at that time for me, I was also kind of struggling a little bit, so I wasn't as good as I was before, but I did get better again later on. But
for those of you that are watching right now, we have over 100 people watching right now. Just think about that. We're talking Walter Ray Williams was up here in our area 40 plus years ago pitching horseshoes, long before he was the greatest of all time in the sport of bowling.
Before I won a national tour. So I don't think I'm trying to think of. I don't think I went to the tournament in '83 because I think the World Horseshoe Tournament was the same week as the tournament in Buffalo, but the next year in '84, I was up there. Well, maybe, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's still a great story. Just, when everybody thinks of Walter Ray Williams, they think of the bowling, especially people around here in this area, not even realizing that even before you were known for bowling, you were up here pitching horseshoes literally right down the road from our bowling center. So that's actually pretty neat.
They had a pretty good group of horseshoe players. New York's actually had a pretty good group of horseshoe players throughout the years. Like I talked about the one guy, Carl Steinfeld from Rochester. another gentleman, Mike DiMartino, who was also from the Rochester area, and he actually set up an exhibition match or whatever with me where we would bowl 3 games and we went out and played horseshoes. He actually beat me bowling, and then I beat him horseshoes.
Okay, listen, let's transfer to the PBA League, the famous PBA League. First question I have is, do you think it's going to happen in the middle of July like it's planned? What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to tell. I know everybody wants everything to go back to normal, but just wanting it to be that way doesn't mean it's going to happen. And unfortunately, I think some of the states, opening up a little bit too soon might be a bad thing. But they do also say that the summer months might help a little bit in that sense. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. And I think the international players, I think they're going to have a serious issue about getting over here. I think they're going to have to try to come over 2 to 3 weeks early just so they can get here. Right now, if you were to drive up to Maine, you'd be in quarantine for 2 weeks. So you wouldn't even be able to do anything. So it's, if that doesn't go away, the whole thing's going to be a big issue.
So then the next question is, whenever the PBA League happens, whether it's July or moved to later in the year, I've been getting a lot of people asking me about who are you guys thinking of drafting, or do I have any part in that? I know Johnny has called and talked to me, but I'll just say the way that the PBA League is scheduled right now for the middle of July, it happens to fall on the same week that Johnny Petraglia's senior tour stop in Florida. So Johnny won't even be able to be there. So you'll be our manager. So I'm sure you've been talking to Johnny about some of the people you might be thinking about drafting. Could you talk a little bit about that?
I can, but I think I will keep those mum, because I don't want the other guys out there to say, oh, these guys are looking at that, maybe we should pick up that guy, because I think there are some players out there that might be, underrated. So, and I think they would be picks.
Well, what are your thoughts on types of bowlers strategically that you might be looking at?
I think that kind of falls in the same category. I mean, I would be willing to talk to you about after the draft on Sunday. I'm assuming that's going to still go forward, but I really don't want to give the competition any heads up. Honestly,
that's fine. I can certainly understand that.
The thing is all these guys are great bowlers, and I think the other part of that is chemistry. That's part of it, and definitely how guys play lanes and stuff. It makes a difference. So there's a little bit extra strategy goes on, but the other reality is in the matches, the guys throw 4 frames. So basically you're throwing 4 shots, so it's not, there's not a huge difference between all these guys throwing 4 shots.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've told people.
I mean, the last few years, I felt like the teams that I bowled on have bowled pretty well, and we've gotten nothing. I mean, it's just like everything bad could happen. And it's just like, really, I don't understand it. So hopefully this next year we'll get all those good breaks that, we haven't been getting over the years.
Yeah, this is our year. The Brooklyn Styles. We got to make it happen this year.
We got the most experience.
Yeah. Has there ever been a PBA League team that has the largest combined number of years age-wise? I don't think so.
Probably not. Well,
I don't care if it's a good thing or not.
Parker and I were on the team, but it was also, we were both much younger then too. So, because now I'm
talk a little bit about some of your memories from up here in Bowling in Buffalo, whether it be the most recent national stops that we've had. We had the plastic ball tournament up here, or talk about back during my teen years, they had the Bell's Markets Open, and that was the senior and and regular PBA doubles. Did you ever bowl those at all?
I did bowl the doubles a couple times when I was the younger player, and they had I want to say they had a regular tournaments also, but unfortunately my memory is kind of so, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, which is crazy because I mean I really didn't do drugs, didn't drink alcohols very much, so it's like it's why my memory's as poor as it is, I couldn't tell you, but I know I've done this and that and stuff, and it's like, oh, well, I have to, oh yeah, I look at a video or something, oh yeah, I remember that now, but to draw it out of my head, it's like, wow, it's kind of hard.
All right, so you're going to have to think about this one then. How many titles do you have? 40, 47?
I have 47 national titles.
Okay, so of those 47, talk a little bit about some of your most memorable wins. And if you can pick out just one, which one would it be? But I'm sure there's many memories on the TV show. Well,
probably my first TV show was awesome. I mean, that's everybody's dream, going out on tour. And I was 23 and had actually been struggling a little bit. The first 5 tournaments, I'd only gotten 1 check. And I was kind of wondering, ooh, is this such a good idea? And I'm like, well, I got a horseshoe tournament. I can go to that. I can win that. And, hopefully that'll kind of kickstart things. And it actually did. I won the horseshoe tournament. And then I led the PTQ the next tournament in St. Louis. And then I actually made the TV show in Peoria the next week and ended up finishing 3rd. I bowled Tom Baker, my first game on TV. I shot 269 against him. So it was awesome. And he had back-to-back Greek churches against me, something he's probably never, ever done before or since. But the next match, I was bowling Malacosta. I needed a double in the 10th frame to beat him, and then I would move on and actually bowl. I would have bowled Earl Anthony for the title. Unfortunately, I left a ring in 10, and Mal ended up bowling Earl, and Earl won his 40th title. And Earl was the only left-hander in the top 24 that week.
So Earl had 40 titles before you had one?
Well, he retired. He ended up winning one more tournament that year, so he had the 41 titles. And technically, because he was credited with the 2 Masters titles, he had 43 titles before I won my first title. Yeah, because he retired in '83 and he won the Masters in '84. But yeah, and then in 1986, I won my very first tournament, and again that was at Peoria. Kind of strange. And there was 3 lefties that were in the top 3, Steve Cook, John Kent, and Hugh Miller. And I bowled Mods Carlson the first match. I threw a clutch Brooklyn to beat him in the 10th frame.
I gotta love those Brooklyns.
Yeah, I've had quite a few thrown against me since. So, but it was just kind of, the lanes were a little tougher back then. It wasn't like we were averaging 230 and stuff at tournaments. Every once in a while that did happen, but most of the time, if you're averaging 210, 215, you had a good chance of making the TV show. Nowadays, you got to average like 230 something. It's crazy how the scores are and how good these young players are. These young players are really good.
They are.
But anyway, I ended up throwing a clutch Brooklyn to lock him out. So he still would have needed to do something to attempt to beat me. And then I went to the lefties. I think Hugh Miller bowled a really good. He shot like 230 against me, and I shot 240 against him. And Steve Cook, who led the tournament, shot a horrible game, shot 160 something, and I shot like 210 to beat him. But it obviously winning that very first title, that's like, wow, I actually can win. Until you do that, you really don't know. And then I actually ended up winning 2 more times that year and was Player of the Year, which, coming from the year before, I was 22nd on the money list, and I, just had a standout year in '86. All of a sudden, I was making the shows and then obviously winning. I went from making 1 show to making 9 shows and 3 wins. So that was definitely a huge, step up. And after that, it was kind of lights out. For the next 25 years from then until 2010, that's when I won all my 47 titles. And I did have a few years. I had a few years where I bowled really well and wasn't winning on TV. It was kind of crazy. And then '93 comes around, and I win as many tournaments basically in 1 year as I'd won the previous 9 years on tour.
It's really something. Is there any title that's more special than any other ones?
Well, I mean, the majors are definitely huge. I managed to win the Open, win the Masters, managed to beat Chris Barnes both times for the Masters.
Yeah,
exactly. And and I won the Open a couple times. I won the national tournament several times. And one time I won the national at bowling Jeff Lizzie in 2001, and it was like I was just kind of lost, and all of a sudden, I need to throw these shots, and I managed to do it. Back then I was a little better bowler, and able to make the shots more often than I did. And then I remember the one year bowling Mike Haugen at the Open, and the lanes were very challenging, and I think those are probably the more rewarding ones when you're really bowling on challenging conditions and can prevail. And actually my second title was kind of that way. I won the tournament in Baltimore in '86, and I probably only averaged 210 or 211 to make the TV show, and ended up winning the tournament. And it's like if you missed by a splinter, the ball was going the opposite direction. And bowling, I actually bowled Bob Knippel on TV, and then Gil Sliker beat Gil Sliker for the title.
You're really throwing out some names of some of the people from the past.
Yeah, most of these young guys have no idea who those guys are.
No idea. Yeah,
No
I mean,
idea.
those were some of the people that I grew up watching as well.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, a couple of the shows that I've made happen to be the same shows that Walter Ray made, and fortunately for me, the day that I won my first title, I put the pressure on Walter Ray. I don't think I had a Brooklyn in that day, but I threw some good shots, and it came down to the 10th frame, and Walter Ray had to get up, and I think he needed at least the first strike in the 10th, or maybe a double in the 10th or something like that, and he got up and he left a pocket 7-10, and I was fortunate enough to be able to win and move on, and then it led to me winning my first title. So there it is. Talk about coming full circle. Not only did I have a chance to bowl Walter Ray on the day that led to my first title, he was also one of the people that I bowled against in my hallway when I was a kid, just cutting my teeth. I used to have the little score sheet set up at the end of the hallway, and there it was.
When you couldn't get to the lanes all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. True. So, now here it is. Maybe we'll have to have you come up here. Maybe when the senior stop is nearby or something like that, we'll have some of the senior guys come over and see if we can't have some fun out here at the lanes and get some of the people from around here that are big followers of the tour.
Yeah.
Bowling here in Buffalo, there's a large number of people that support Buffalo or support bowling here in Buffalo.
Big bowling area. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to Bakes last week. We'll get Bakes out here. We're actually putting in some volleyball courts out back, and hopefully this shutdown ends while it's still warm weather out here, and we can get out there and play some volleyball. We're going to have some bocce courts out back as well. So, maybe we'll put a couple posts out there in the dirt, and you can throw some horseshoes out there too.
Well, that'd be like putting a bowling lane out in the cement parking lot.
Yeah, we could do that too. Here's another question. You're the only guy to have ever made the Big Four on TV. And to this day, I remember the thing I remember most about that was not that you made it. It was your reaction, like the unscripted, and even more funny was Ryan Schaefer's reaction. Because Ryan Schaefer always feels like he's the most snake-bitten person ever, and
Yep.
Sure enough, he's thinking he got a break. There's Walter Ray, leaves the Big Four. Walter Ray throws the ball, knocks the pin out, hits the 7 back into the 4, and Walter Ray gives it the double take. And Ryan Schaefer, he's like, of course. So talk a little bit about that. What that felt like.
Well, I mean, that was just a lucky shot. I mean, picking up the Big Four is something that doesn't happen very often. And I get asked that all the time. Wow, that was awesome. I said, I lost the game by 20 pins, so it didn't matter. And Ryan makes a big deal about it. Yeah, he picked up the big four. You still beat me. Why are you whining about it? I'm like, whatever. It's if it was to win a tournament, that would be unbelievable. It was in the middle of the game, probably sixth or seventh. I don't even remember what frame it was, sixth or seventh frame, and he was probably ahead of me at the time. And he beat me by 20 pins in a game, so it really didn't matter. It's just one of those things. It's like the last tournament we had in Vegas. I picked up the 4-6-7, and it was like clean as a whistle. I mean, it happened so quick. It was like, wow, that's awesome. And I'm like, and I'm bowling decent. I'm like, all right. And then the last day, I didn't bowl as well. I missed the cut. I didn't make any money. It's like, well, okay, I made that split. Big deal. Doesn't mean anything. If it had been to win a tournament or something, or win a game, it'd have been a little different thing. But it was a lucky shot because, like I said, it doesn't happen very often. But whatever.
Well, I'm glad you left the blower 7-10 against me for whatever it's worth.
I'm really glad. I wasn't happy about it. I'm gonna go out on a limb.
Hold on, we're getting another question here thrown out here. So go ahead, you keep talking, and I'll get this question here. What do we got?
Okay.
Josh?
Talk about the over/under that you bowled him and his partner with just a few months ago.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's something we could talk about. That's actually pretty good.
No.
Thomas.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, but no, it was. I mean,
you bowled a great match against us. It was a fun tournament. I bowled with Nate Garcia, who had been rooming with us a couple of weeks when we had houses and stuff. And Nate's a great kid. And you obviously bowling with Thomas It was a good event. I didn't bowl exceptionally well in the title match. You bowled phenomenal, and it came down to the 10th frame. Unfortunately, things happened, and you guys won the match.
Yeah, but not even so much that. Rather, win or lose. It's a whole different mental mindset when you're bowling doubles, or even in the team type of thing. It's a whole different thing than an individual, and talk a little bit about what it's like. What's the different mindset? Obviously, when you step up on the approach, the mindset's the same. Do your job. But from a communication point of view, and what made you pick Nate and the communication between two people bowling doubles. Talk a little bit about that sort of stuff.
Well, I enjoy bowling the doubles. I prefer to bowl the singles competitions, but I do enjoy the bowling the doubles and the team stuff. And it's something you can, rally your partner up and stuff. And I've been fortunate enough to win quite a few doubles tournaments. I think I have 3 regional doubles titles. And actually I got more than that because now I won the, and then I've got 2 or 3 over/under doubles titles with Dick Allen, who's quite a character. He's a great bowler. Probably one of the most underrated bowlers on tour, I think. And part of it is because he doesn't have the super high rev rate. He's got a pretty decent rev rate, and he's really accurate. I mean, I've bowled with him a couple of times, and I'm like watching him. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, why am I even trying to bowl on tour? He's just destroying me when we're bowling doubles together, and we bowl really well together. He's fun. He thinks I'm fun. And I actually asked Dick to bowl the tournament, but because the tournament before was in Arkansas, he stayed down in Arkansas to help his company, rep his company and stuff. So Nate was like, well, are you interested in bowling? I said, yeah, I'll bowl with you. So hadn't really bowled much with Nate. I'd seen him bowl, and like I said, we've been hanging around and become friends and stuff. And that particular tournament, watching him and what he's able to do, he's able to throw the ball nice and straight when he needs to, and he can hook the ball a lot. Like a lot of the younger players, they really like to hook the ball a lot, but he was also really good at going up the lane, and I was very impressed with that. I think that's the one thing that a lot of the younger players kind of miss out on, is being able to do that, being able to play the lane straighter. I had years and years of that where it was very successful, and guys are like, how is he doing that? And it's like, well, there are times when going straighter is actually a good play. Most of the time when the lanes break down, you want to get left and hook it. I get that. There's a reason why guys hook the ball. There's an advantage to it. But watching him do that and, trying to encourage him when he was struggling a little bit, and he's encouraged me when I'm struggling. And we both bowled pretty well in the tournament, obviously. So
sure,
it was obviously fun. I think I averaged 234 or something in the tournament. I think he averaged 237. So it was definitely a fun event. Just, obviously the outcome wasn't what we were looking for. Damn you, Brad.
Yeah, I know. The outcome in that tournament was exactly what I was looking for. But there again, it's always neat. It's always neat, whenever you win, a win's a win. But it's that much sweeter when you beat somebody, who's one of the all-time greats. I've been.
I've got a bunch of people do that to me.
How many?
I've got 47 national titles. I got 47 seconds, I believe. And
really? Hopefully on the senior tour.
And on the senior tour, I've got 14 wins, and I would bet I've got at least 14 seconds.
Well, it would be an honor to be able to bowl against you on the senior tour on one of the step levels as well.
I think it would be my honor because I think you're the one I'm going to be chasing you.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't know. I mean, I'm really looking forward to bowling that PBA league with you.
The PBA league should be fun. I think we got a good team. We got a good base, and we'll pick up hopefully a couple of great talented players. Hopefully we can gel and just cruise on through, and everybody be afraid of us. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's the thing. I mean, I remember back when we were all on the Brunswick team. When we were bowling outdoors, everybody was thinking that we were going to be the pushover team, and we ended up pressing it all the way to the end of the 10th frame. I think you were on that team. I think you were on that team.
Yeah.
So our old friend Rick Benoit just chimed in with a good question, and he asks, you know what, Walter Ray, if you could do this all over again, is there anything that you would do differently? What would you do?
I can't complain about what I've done bowling wise. The last 10 years, I've learned how to bowl two-handed, because that's the one thing I was kind of missing, was a little bit more power in my game. Had I learned how to do something like that, but nobody was doing that, and there was one guy that did it in the middle 80s, and he really wasn't very successful. So it was not a big deal, so it wasn't until the, 2004, 5, 6 that I saw guys bowling two-handed and being successful at it. When Osku Palermo made the TV show, the top 4 at the U.S. Open in 2004. I'm like, and I'm, bowling in a tournament. I'm like, there's no way he's going to make the show bowling the way he does. It's just not going to happen. And then he did, and it opened my eyes, And there's so much more about bowling than people realize. It's not just one thing, and I think that's one thing I've usually been pretty good at, not just doing one thing. And, being able to play an outside line, play an inside line, even though I don't play the inside line as well as somebody like you and all the young players on tour, I didn't mind playing inside. When I first went on tour, I loved B squad, night squad, because they rolled once in the morning, and by night squad, the lanes are hooking, you're playing 5th or 6th arrow. I used to love that. That was my favorite thing to do back in the old days. And, young players now, they're like, what? He can play left to second arrow? Because on TV it's fresh oil, and that's where I'm going to play where I'm going to have my best advantage. And to me, that's my best advantage, playing first or second arrow. It's not, my advantage is not playing 5th or 6th arrow unless the lanes break down a good way. And on the regular tour nowadays, when they break down, oh my God, it's a mess. And it's just it's very frustrating for somebody who has a much lower rev rate and being able to try to play the lanes the way they break them down. And but like I said, back in the old days, that was really my cup of tea, was playing inside and playing that inside line, and playing more of what we call a fallback. These guys don't know what fallback is. They think 52 feet of oil is now their ball's only hooking 6 inches on the last 8 feet instead of 12 or 14. And I'm like, you guys don't even know what straight is. I would love to see a tournament where they hold 59 and a half feet. Let these guys have the ball hit into the pocket like mine does. See how they survive that.
I can answer that. The thing that's going to happen is that their speed, the advantage they have is getting that head pin back up off the side.
And that's the thing. They get the action and that's something I don't have. And it's, I get it once in a while, but I need the angle and the speed. When I have an outside line and I can throw it really firm, I can get the head pin to get the 10 out. But playing fourth arrow, playing fifth arrow, that doesn't happen very often. It's like really rare that I actually get the head pin to come over and get the 10 pin. And so I'm leaving a lot of these 10 pins and stuff. And that's where these younger players had that advantage, because they're still scouting the 10. And it's like they're disappointed when that doesn't happen. And even when I bowl two-handed, I still don't get the pin action. I still don't get the head pin coming over and get the 10 pin. So it's my ball speed's still not high enough, even when I bowl two-handed, to get that extra angle and speed to get the head pin to take out the 10 pin, which really is not as good a shot as a flush shot, but it gets the strike. It's part of the modern power game, which is definitely a part of the game. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it. You sit there and you watch some of those guys, and from an execution point of view, at times, I'm sure you feel the same way. I feel like I am executing better than many of them, but I look up at the scoreboard and I'm still 15 or 20 pins short of them. They get those off the wall shots, or they're breaking up those splits because the pins fly around so much more, and it's just hard to keep up with what they're able to create.
And the other part of that is I'm just not near as accurate as I used to be, right? And that's really the big crux of it. Because I've always, not always, because when I first came on tour, I was probably in the middle of the road of rev rate, and hooking the ball. And I remember watching, some of the older guys, Dick Weber, Nelson Burton, Ernie Schlegel, and stuff. I'm like, how do they strike? They throw the ball so straight. And I know all the younger players, as I was coming up, they were always looking at me, how in the heck does he strike? Because he throws the ball so straight. But I was accurate enough and able to take advantage of, the lane conditions and stuff, that I was able to do what I was able to do. But now my accuracy is just not good enough. I mean, I throw shots now, off my hand. I'm like, oh man, I really love it. And I'm just a head pin, or I'll go through the nose. And I'm like, what did I do that was so different that, caused that to happen? And, part of it's me, and part of it's the way the lane conditions are and how they transition and how they, change and stuff. And when the lanes change in bowling, and like I mentioned earlier, there's a reason why guys hook the ball. It's an advantage when they can create more area, because of the amount of rotation they have on a ball. It takes advantage of the difference in oil on the lane. And that's why guys hook the ball. And that's why the guys get left. And they all know that. That. It's otherwise they'll be throwing it straight. There's really not an advantage of throwing it straight, but once in a while. But the once in a while happens so rarely. And what's really odd is on the short patterns now, it's like there's so much oil that they put on the lanes that after a game or two, the oil carries down, and all of a sudden I'm using the ball. I got a ball that hooks as much as any ball that I ever have, trying to get the ball to hook off the gutter. And if it hooks off the gutter, it hooks too hard, or it doesn't hook at all. And it's like, so I get the wet, dry house condition, which I absolutely hate. And it drives me nuts, So there's so much more to bowling on tour that people don't realize. And yeah, I'm an old guy, and I probably should have retired about 8 years ago. But I love competition, and it probably helped me stay on the senior tour even better, because trying to compete against these young guys is really, to me, competition is your best practice. Practice helps you get better, but until you bowl in competition, that's where you really can keep your game on your tippy toes.
What about when you're not bowling on tour, whether it be the senior tour or the regular tour? Are you one of the weekend warrior type guys? Do you bowl a lot of the weekend tournaments like we have up here? Do they have a lot of those? And do you bowl?
I actually bowled quite a few tournaments down here in Florida until the last couple of months. They would have quite a few tournaments, and fortunately, they actually had quite a few tournaments where the conditions were kind of challenging, which is I like that, because I think that makes you a better bowler. I tell people all the time when I do my clinics, I say, you want to be a good bowler, learn how to bowl on a 1-to-1 pattern. A really tough pattern. Your scores might not be as good when you do that, but when you get to the other condition, all of a sudden it's going to be, oh, this is easy because I'm used to hitting that, and now I can hit that, and bowling on a league condition, yeah, it strokes your ego, and it makes you think you can bowl well, but you can hit that, and you think you can do that all the time, and then all of a sudden you got to hit that, and it's tough to do that. But if you practice on that, then even if you're averaging 190 or 195 in practice, you go out and you bowl the tournaments, and all of a sudden the lane conditions are a little bit easier than that. It's like, oh, this is easy. So I think that is one of the biggest things that hurts bowling is the easy lane conditions we've got around the country. I know a lot of places put out more tougher patterns and stuff, especially for tournaments, and I think that's awesome. I'm just amazed that even some of the old guys, the senior tour players, some of them complain about the tough lane conditions. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys grew up when 210 was a really good score, and now it's like you guys think if you don't average 230, it's like, well, they're too tough. And I'm like, I'm kind of confused about that. I like to strike as much as the next guy, but I think making those shots, I think your shot making really shows up more when you have to make better shots on a U.S. Open condition or whatever, a flat condition. I really believe that.
Well, let me ask you this. You talk about those types of formats as related to different patterns, but what about the different formats as related to the type of game, the actual format, best of 7 formats? I know I see
I
Rick.
hated those. Absolutely hated those. I complain about those constantly to the PBA officials. The guys that were running the PBA weren't bowlers. They didn't understand the nuances. I'm a math guy, statistician. The more games you bowl, the better chance the better player has. And I won probably just as many tournaments bowling on those formats as not, but I think elimination format should be eliminated from bowling, from professional bowling. We have enough to deal with a step ladder. The step ladder is you got to win it twice. But people accept that as that's how you do it. The reason why we do it is because if they went in and had a 42-man round robin, or the 42 games, the old schedule, and they come in and take the last few games of competition, basically like what they do in a golf tournament, then it wouldn't necessarily be as exciting. And that's why they have the step ladder. Imagine what the golfers would do, the professional golfers, if you said, okay, you guys just played 72 holes. We're going to take the top 4 players or top 5 players, and you're going to have a 3-hole match. And you're going to have a 3-hole match, and you're going to have a 3-hole match. What do you think they would do? They would scream bloody murder. And it's because they realize that, hey, I just played 72 holes, and that's really what matters. And now you're taking everything away from me, and you're going to have us bowl this really short game. And that's basically what bowling's done. They went from these nice long formats, and they went to these ridiculously short formats and say, oh, this is going to be a lot better. Yes, you still have great bowlers winning those tournaments, but it's a total. When you're throwing pins away, I just totally dislike that.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, in that golf, the other side of that argument, and I feel just as strong as in a golf tournament, the way that the people ahead of you play that golf hole has very little effect on how you get to play that golf hole. So I think the transitional component that a particular format brings out, I would say that one of the reasons that Pete Weber had such a difficult time beating you in the best of 7 format is
he didn't have trouble beating me in the best of 7.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
What are you talking about? I watched so many matches you and Pete, whether it was best of 5 or best of 7 back then. He had such a hard time beating you.
I don't think we bowled each other that many times. You remember in TV when we had one game, I've only bowled Pete 10 times on TV, and I've managed to beat him 8 times, 6 for titles. So I think I was 6-0 against him on title, which, and that's luck, no offense. A few things happened here and there. Pete threw some bad shots. Pete had some bad breaks. I had some good breaks. I had some, I threw some good shots when I needed to. But when you only bowl somebody 10 times, that's just statistically insignificant. You bowl somebody 100 times, 200 times, that's when it makes a difference. If you bowl somebody 200 times and you beat them 150 times, that's significant. You bowl somebody 200 times, you beat them 102 times, that's not significant. And that's I'm a math guy. That's statistics. And when you
okay, so let's do it. I'll bowl you 200 times. Let's go. Start right now. Come on up.
I'm not gonna. We can do that. I'm not gonna bowl you for money though, because I think you're a better player than I am right now. Now, 15 years ago, different story. 15 years ago, different story. I felt I was the best player on tour, and I'd take anybody. Let's bowl 100 games, 50 games, because I think I'm going to prevail. And the other part of that is because of the way I play the lane, and we're bowling a 7-game match, because of the way I play the lane, and most of the guys hook the ball more than I do, they can take advantage of how I break the lane down. I break the lane down nice for guys like you. You don't break the lane down nice for me. You know that.
Exactly.
And to me, I never thought that was fair. If you're going to do that, let me bowl on one lane, you bowl on the one lane, and we'll see how you break your lane down, and I'll break my lane down. Let's see who wins. We can do that.
Now, there's a format. Let's do it.
If we do that, I think I have a much better chance, especially some of these kids, because I really don't think they're very good at breaking a lane down. Their position is they want to get left as soon as they can. It's amazing. I watch it all the time. Practice sessions. They go left, but they don't go left that fast. As soon as the tournament hits, that second or third game, they are as left as they can get, and they go left even beyond that. It's like their mentality is they got to get left of everybody else. And so everybody else is doing the exact same thing. So they just get left so fast, it's unbelievable. And they really don't know how to break a lane down very well. They don't understand. It's, guys, I hear guys complain about guys using urethane. The only reason you would complain about somebody using urethane is if they hook the ball way, way, way more than you do. That's my problem. Because when the oil carry down, if they're carrying the oil down in a big circle, then I got to be able to get around that carry down. And it's hard for me to do that because I don't hook the ball as much. But all these guys on tour, they can all do that. And the oil carry down actually makes the lane better. It's especially on a shorter pattern. I think these guys, I think they just don't know what they're talking about. The urethane carries the oil down and it makes it different than a reactive. But unless these guys are hooking the whole lane using urethane, and most of them don't, then you're pretty much going to make the lane better. So man,
I love this conversation. This is awesome. This is the way it should be. Like it should be like a around the horn, ESPN around the horn, or one of those types of back and forth shows, like back and forth. That's what we need in bowling. I mean, I like opposing viewpoints. It's not that one is right and one is wrong. There's a certain number of people.
In certain cases, some are right, some are wrong. And
that's true.
But these young guys are very, very good. Everybody's like, "Oh man, you're way more accurate than them." I don't know about that. I watch these guys. I see what they do. I watch what they do, and I'm like, I think I'm pretty honest with myself in that regard. These young guys are great. The difference is a lot of them have trouble trying to play a straighter game, and I understand that because they're brought up with power, and some guys learn to play the lanes a little straighter. Now, you bowled when you came on tour in the late 90s, right?
No, actually, my rookie year was 02-03.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you came out. Well, anyway, but even then, when the way the lanes were oiled back then, the guys that hooked the ball would struggle those first few games of qualifying, right?
Yep.
And then the last few games, they'd go lights out because then the oil would carry down. They could get around it and they could take advantage of all the play, right? Nowadays, they're lights out game one. Aren't they?
You're right.
And I think a big part of that is, part of it is the shorter patterns is where they would have more trouble back then. And now the shorter patterns, they're actually, some guys are getting smarter because they are using urethane and going up the lanes instead of trying to hook the whole lane. Instead of trying to play fourth arrow going to three board, that's, it's not too easy to do. Sometimes they can do it, but the shorter patterns where they're playing urethane going up 5-3 or 6-3 or whatever like that. And when the oil carries down, then they go to reactive balls. And in the old days, the shorter pattern, you didn't even try to play left to second arrow. You never want. And now these guys, they're playing third arrow and the short patterns, and it's like I don't know what it is, whether the patterns are that much different and the way the oil carries down and the way the players are. I don't know what it is, but I struggle on pretty much all the patterns. Of course, I struggle on everything because I'm not as good as I used to be. That's that's a big reality. But I can still make decent shots. I mean, what's funny is I bowled a couple of those PBA, the doubles tournament that you bowled in. I bowled pretty well in that. And theoretically, that was one of the same patterns we bowled on in Indianapolis. Now, of course, the scores were a lot higher, but I think part of that is the rev rates are a little bit lower. Obviously, a different machine, all that stuff, different house, so it probably wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't the exact same ratio, but it was probably pretty close. And then we had a regional tournament, a senior regional, and it's the same thing. There's a similar pattern as we were bowling on one of the tournaments on the national tour, and I averaged like 237. It's just, and I could hardly miss a pocket, but it was just, the way the tour players play the lanes just changes them so differently.
I try to tell people all the time, you have no idea what it's like bowling out on tour, experiencing the transition. You can't even try to simulate that. No, even during a practice session.
It's basically impossible. You can get your best friends and come out and do that, and it's like it's basically like a practice. Like I said, the practice sessions, you guys don't move as left, and part of it is in practice, if they happen to go through the nose, it's like not a big deal. In a tournament, they go through the nose. Oh, I got to move. And everything's a move. It doesn't matter whether it's, when somebody told me that one time, they left a 2-pin. If they're right-handed, they left a 2-pin, they move left and hit it hard. I'm like, what? That's backwards. But that's the modern game. And I'm like, are you kidding? Why would you move left if you can't get the ball to hook up to the 2-pin? And they said, well, I don't want to move right and hit the dry and have it go through the nose. I'm like, okay, but a lot of guys do that.
Yeah, and they go to a stronger ball, and they I mean, some of the rev rates, you think
they're through the roof. When I bowl two-handed, and I realize I'm not young and stuff, but my two-handed game, I still got a decent rev rate two-handed. It's still like in the bottom 10% of the guys on tour. It's the rev rates are so high, and it's hard to appreciate how good these guys are just watching the guys on TV. Until you get out there and actually watch them bowl or bowl against them, that's when you appreciate it, because those guys are really good.
Yeah, you don't even realize it. I've been bowling matches against EJ on Mondays, and I don't know if you've had a chance to swing by one of those around on Facebook.
Now you're bowling in your house and he's bowling in his house, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. It's
hard to do that in bowling because the conditions are so prevalent in bowling, and so it's like, okay, well, let's put out the same shot. And like, well, okay, my machine does it different than your machine, and like,
exactly.
Make me look, so kind of what happens is, I don't know what's happened, but I'm guessing that kind of what happens is all of a sudden you're bowling on house shots because you want to score the best you can, because he's going to score the best he can. And that's an unfortunate side effect of bowling. But I haven't watched him, but
Well, the point that I wanted to make is that we have been putting out the same pattern. That pattern gets loaded into the machine, and then you don't know what oil he's using on the surface that he's playing on.
Everything's different.
Kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But the interesting thing is, as I watch, even when we're on a house shot, well, 1 week we bowled on a house shot. This past week we bowled on bear. Last 2 weeks we bowled on scorpion. Is the different way that he has to attack the pattern, even on the fresh.
Oh yeah.
And because of that, you're right. He has a huge advantage out on tour because pretty much everybody plays to the right of the high rev rate guys. And then as the pattern gets widened out.
No. You're backwards. They're all high rev players, so they all hook the ball.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But where I have to play out on tour, there's still enough oil there the first couple of games. But then when I'm moving left, I'm running right into where they already started. And
that's exactly what I talk about. That and that's part of what I talk about. In my clinics. This is I hook the ball less. So when I move left, now I'm hitting their laydown area that used to be their laydown areas, and they're left of that. So I'm hitting their right miss to the friction. And my left is going to be hooked, to the right is going to be less hook. So I've got negative area where they've got area, and it's hard to explain that until you actually go out there and see it. And the problem is it becomes mental. And I go out there in competition, and I see that little reaction. I'm like, oh my God, I got nothing to do, and it compounds all of the problems that go on with that. EJ's a phenomenal bowler. Oh my God. I remember when I first saw him when he was bowling the qualifier at the U.S. team trials. I ended up crossing. We're crossing the other direction, and I saw this kid from Huntington, Indiana, and I knew some good horseshoe players from Huntington. So I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, oh wow, man, this kid throws the ball nice. He was like 18 years old, and I'm like, wow, awesome, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, and off the lanes, I would say he's of the young guns, that crew. He's definitely one of the nicer guys of all of those guys. Not to take anything away, because I'm fortunate enough to know
everybody has their moments,
Yeah, but I'm telling you, EJ, what a great, nice guy, always there to sign autographs. Anthony Simonson is another one of the guys that, is always there, easy to talk to, and just what a pleasure it is to be able to have been around to see the game transition, even though it's had a negative impact on my success. It's really neat to see this next generation of guys come up and to see how dominant that they are. So,
yeah.
Rick Benoit has another question. Rick always has these neat questions and these thought-provoking questions. So his question is, what, if anything, what rules out on the PBA Tour would you like to see changed?
I like them to see. I would like them to enforce the time policy and how much time you have to throw a ball, and the double jumping rule. Not the double jumping rule, but guys don't bowl once it's their turn. When I first started on tour in the 80s, we bowled 6 games in about 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now it takes about 6 hours and 45 minutes, and they throw a lot more strikes. Guys are waiting. Pairs are not supposed to wait. They're waiting 4 or 5 lanes to the right and to the left. And it's like most of these guys are super prima donnas, and it's like I think they're hurting bowling. I honestly do, and I don't know how they get away with, when they get on TV, that they actually now they got to speed up, because a lot of these guys are so slow. It's unbelievable. They're never ready to bowl when it's their turn. I think that would be a boon to professional bowling. These guys actually learn to bowl when it's their turn, and stop taking 4-lane courtesy. It drives me nuts, because I'm a fairly quick bowler, and it's not fair that I pay attention to rules, and I got somebody bowling 3 lanes away from me when I'm on the right lane, and these guys won't bowl. They will not get on the lane.
I agree. I see it all the time, to the point that those of us that do bowl fast, you end up getting to the next pair of lanes. Brad. Well, no, I just throw it slow, and I'm very methodical, but I'm always ready to go when it's my turn. I will say that.
Yeah.
But you get to the next pair of lanes, and it feels like no matter how slow you try to bowl, you get to the next pair of lanes, and they're still in their 8th frame. So you sit there.
I've gotten to the point the last few years that I intentionally don't bowl when it's my turn, and just miss turns and stuff, because I'm normally quick, and because I'm quick, I have to wait every single game that I go to, and I don't. And now that I'm 60, those 10-minute waits are not good.
Yeah, I agree. I have the same problem when I get to the next pair of lanes. Now,
and I'm not throwing as many strikes as these kids.
Exactly. The other part of it is that it used to be an advantage, I felt, if I could get to that next pair of lanes with 1 or 2 frames to go, because you could see the balls going down the lane and that kind of stuff. But man, I'm almost to the point now where I don't know which one I like. If I get there and I get to watch a few shots, man, my back starts stiffening up just in that little 5 or 10 minutes.
It's amazing. Yeah,
it is amazing. So I feel like I've taken that turn now to where you've heard people say, you better make sure you embrace your youth for as long as you can. And now I feel like I'm on the other side of that, to where I'm fighting to try to stay as mobile and as flexible as I can.
Yeah.
and it hasn't been easy during this lockdown. I mean, pizza and chicken wings is usually the dinner of choice.
Well, I have had a couple pizzas, but I've actually dabbled in cooking. So I actually made my own pasta. I make
like the macaroni.
No, like spaghetti. I actually made spaghetti pasta. The actual pasta. We bought a pasta maker, and I actually did as like, and my wife's like, oh my God, that's the absolute best pasta, the best spaghetti we've ever had. And I do a pretty good mean spaghetti anyway. I love taco salad. I put everything in a taco salad, and I like things a little spicy, so I'm always adding stuff to it. But she tends not to like stuff quite as spicy as I do. But I love a lot of international food, the Asian foods and stuff. So, and love salads.
Well, once we get out to the senior tour, I'd be happy to be the judge for your spaghetti. I would be honored.
No, I won't have my spaghetti maker with me, but
well, she's got to come out on the road. Come on.
No. I do it. She doesn't cook. I'm the one that's cooking.
Oh, you mean the actual make the pasta?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll find one. Maybe we'll go into a restaurant.
Maybe we'll have the tournament here or whatever. But I put my spaghetti up against anybody's.
Okay, come on, bring it on. Bring it on.
I like it now. I like what I do to it. I add some spices and stuff to it. And usually, what I do is I get like a pound of ground beef and a pound of spicy Italian sausage, mix it together, put the sauce in there. But I've also grilled some onions and stuff and put some seasonings in there. And then and now with the pasta, it's like she doesn't want to use store-bought pasta ever again.
All right, so let's do it. Make sure you can just put it in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer, and then you can ship it on up here, and we'll fire up some sauce. You can make your own sauce.
It's real simple stuff. So
okay, so that's good. That makes it even better. Then you can make a triple batch.
And we got a bread maker. Made some breads and yeast rolls and stuff, and yeah. I've always loved making chocolate chip cookies. I'm trying not to make too many of those. trying to keep my gut to where it is instead of getting bigger. In fact, it's funny. Yeah. Yesterday we actually bought a treadmill yesterday from one of the local. We just put a thing in. Somebody's like, "Has anybody got a treadmill they're selling?" And it's like, and this lady was moving out, and it's like, so we actually bought it. It's funny because I had to take it apart to get it in the house. It's a really nice little unit. So I'll be getting exercise, and that'll hopefully get me in some good shape when maybe I can compete with you a little better on the senior tour and help out on the league.
Well, one of the biggest problems that I've had with the shutdown is I'm not nearly as active, and so I haven't been bowling as much. And now the malls aren't open to where I can go buy bigger pants, so I'm really struggling here. I'm sitting here. I'm trying to. I'm not buttoning the top button of my pants. I'm just letting it fly, and I got when I pull the belt, I gotta hike the belt up and suck my chest in, and then let it go. So
having a dog that I got to walk 3 or 4 times a day that helps. I've been I got one of those watches that keeps track of your steps, and I'm typically like 15 to 18, 19,000 steps in a day. So.
Really, I'm probably at 40 or 50 steps.
Is it your refrigerator is that close to your bed?
Oh yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice. Listen, we're at almost an hour and 15 minutes. We still got 80, fluctuating between 80 and 100 people watching. So it's doing a great thing. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think this is. Doing these little interviews for me, I feel like that I like doing them because I don't like talking about the normal, hey, what's your favorite ball? And how do you like to play this pattern and all that sort of stuff. The other guys can talk about that. I like try to bring out these interviews and, because I know you personally, let's talk about some of the things that I think are neat and share some of that stuff with some of the fans that maybe one of the other guys wouldn't be able to know so much about you. So I appreciate you coming on. I think this has been great. Anything you want to say in closing?
Just thanks to all my sponsors, Brunswick, Ford's Driving Skills for Life, which is actually a driver's ed program. When I went to school, driver's ed was part of high school. Now it's not, so you got to pay extra for it. But if you have somebody who's in that age, 15 to 17, search them out. They got free programs. It's awesome. And then I've also got the Dexter shoes. I'm on the High Five staff, and also on the Vice grips.
That's great. I appreciate it. Anything, Josh and Tim, thank you for supporting us. Rick, I'm glad you were able to jump on here. Those are some good questions.
Yeah, and Rick helped me out back a few times there 20 years ago when he was the ball rep for Brunswick. It was funny because he would say, okay, you need this ball. So he'd drill it out, and about 2 weeks later, I'd work at it. I was not much of a ball hog. I probably drilled the least amount of bowling balls of anybody on the national tour, but it's kind of the way I was.
Rick helped a lot of us out back then. After a block, you'd go out onto the PBA truck and you'd have to wait in line. There'd be so many people waiting to talk to Rick. He always had, you could always tell the guys that knew what they were talking about if the independent guys that weren't obligated to throw any bowling ball company, who were the guys that they were going to. And Rick always had the largest number of guys that were following him. And, I owe a lot of my success specifically to Rick. So I'm glad that he was able to come on here. He had some good questions for you, and you had some great answers. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, he just threw on here. I loved conversations with Walter Ray. So it's great. I thanks for coming on, Walter Ray. I look forward to hearing from you this weekend for the PBA draft.
Yeah.
If there's anything that we need to do beforehand, let me know. If not, I trust you and Johnny and your knowledge of what you guys want, and hopefully I'll make four of the best shots that I can make. So I'm proud to be.
Well, that's my plan. I was pretty happy with what I did last year, but like I said, for some strange reasons, like we just didn't get any breaks. But that's part of bowling. It really is. People don't realize that there's so much luck involved in a shot of bowling, but over the long run, it kind of evens out. So, thanks for inviting me on, and had a good time. Hope you're staying warm up there. I think you just had some snow, didn't you?
Yeah, it was snowing the last couple of days. We had some flurries, believe it or not.
It got cold down here. It was only like in the middle 70s.
Yeah, well, the good news is that I think we made it through the worst of it. I think spring is about to show up tomorrow. From here on out for the next couple of weeks, we're supposed to be in the high 60s. So that'll be
good.
Nice.
That's nice. You can actually get outside without having a heavy jacket.
It will be nice.
I have to wear my shorts outside because it's nice and warm. It's probably lower 80s here today, so little on the breezy side. So I'm not really excited about that, but hopefully later on it'll slow down and it'll be about 75 degrees when I'm pitching horseshoes in the night. I got lights on my horseshoe court.
Good luck with your interview tomorrow. Put the link up. Feel free to share that link on our Facebook page, on the pit page. Feel free, because there might be some people that want to go on and listen to that interview with him. I mean, I've heard a lot about him, so I think that would be great.
What's amazing is I got my horseshoe videos and stuff, and I do my live horseshoe practice or whatever. I get more people watching that than when I do my bowling regional stuff, because I'll stream the regionals and stuff, and I got like a ridiculous number of people watching. Part of it is because they've never seen it, so it's like somebody shares it, and somebody else shares it, and somebody else shares it. Oh my God, you got to! And I'm not even doing very well. I mean, I really suck compared to what I used to do, but it's obviously way better than what they used to do, what they're used to seeing. So I'm kind of glad that people enjoy that. And I thought, you know what, I should interview Alan, and actually it's he and his wife, and she's in the Hall of Fame. She's finished second 3 times in the ladies division, and they're great. They're a great couple, and it's going to be fun. So, all right, thank you, and appreciate it, and continued success for you, and hopefully your bowling center gets going again, and looking forward to competing with you at the league and maybe against you on the senior tour.
Sounds great. I look forward to it. Thanks, Walter Ray. Thanks, everybody, for sharing all of this, and thanks for supporting us week in and week out. Our viewership continues to grow, so thank all of you for everything you're doing. All right. We'll look forward to next week. I don't have anybody yet. Just look for the updates, and we'll go from there. All right. Again, thank you, Walter Ray, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.